are here this evening for Entrepreneurs Night. And so welcome everyone. This is our monthly second Thursday of the month event on a regular basis. We skipped the month of July just because it was summer, and we're back at it. And this is an opportunity. What we try and do every month is interview an entrepreneur that's based in the Creative Coast area, Savannah, Georgia, and talk about their origin story. And what we're really trying to showcase here is tech companies that are succeeding in our region and the number of companies that are growing in our region and how exciting that is. And so tonight I have with me the Chief Operating Officer of Adventure IT, Stacey Roach. Welcome, Stacey.
Well, thank you. And I sincerely appreciate you having any interest in talking with me.
See, if we were doing it in person, we'd at least have beers, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We'll get back to that soon. So I'd like you to start out by telling us a little bit about the kind of origin story of Adventure IT. How did the company come about? Who are your co-founders, and how did you meet? And really, how did the company start?
Yeah, so I guess way back 2007-ish, bunch of tech guys. We were, working, building websites for companies kind of on the side. We probably landed 2 or 3 nice, little website contracts, big enough to where we were, contemplating what do we do? How do we handle this if this gets any larger? So we were actually all employed up in Northwest Georgia, so the Dalton, Georgia area, working in floor companies or companies that service that floor industry. And so I had a few friends, Lee McKinney, Brent Newsom, and Jeremy Fletcher, who are my 3 co-founders, the guys that have been with the company since the beginning. They started kind of, with some of these websites. We had a little closet that we had rented from a man named Paul Belk up in Northwest Georgia. He had given us a closet in a suite in an office. So it was enough to have a chair, a monitor, and a table. And we put a server in there back in 2007 and just started building business. And it kind of took off slowly. Initially, we were building things. So we're software engineers by trade. And so we were just, we would build little requests for people, mostly websites initially, but then things started to get a little more robust because we were kind of heavy in the enterprise development segment. So we were building software packages or software systems that ran the sample industry at Shaw Floors, which is a Berkshire Hathaway company. We had written inventory systems and order entry systems for some of the marketing divisions kind of around that same place. Doing a lot of integrations, EDI type integrations with Lowe's and Home Depot and some of those companies that were, supplying or sourcing from the flooring companies. And as we're kind of getting into that stuff, we're finding little small businesses that wanted similar functionality. And so because of that, we were getting bigger and bigger opportunities. And I think the one that really kind of took us out of our comfort zone well enough to where we were starting to do things a little more, 8 hours a day after work. We were doing it was a website called TownBot, and it was really Craigslist before Craigslist existed. And it's one of those where we had an investor, they wanted to build something, and, we were able to kind of pull it together. And, we started kind of diving down that road, and it was like, we're really into this. And so, we all got together, we came up with a name, which, I take no credit in that. I've got really great partners. My partners are some of my best friends, and, and on one end I say I'm blessed to have ever met them. At the same time, we're like brothers. We argue and compete, and, we're certainly very all strong-minded about what we want to do. And, we kind of make each other better And so they came up with a name, which, I gravitated to really quickly. And so the company's name is actually Innovative Ventures and Information Technology, but nobody wanted to put that on an email address. And so in Venture IT, which, was kind of cool to me. But ultimately what I kind of equate it to, the innovative ventures part of what we do, we're kind of, I've always coined that term, we're a venture technology company, not a venture capital company. We don't invest capital. Instead, we invest our technology into lots of small business ideas. We certainly do a lot of other things besides just the implications of, putting our technology in as capital into an organization. But a lot of that, started at the very beginning. It was like, we didn't have money. We didn't have the capital to really be an investment group, but we knew enough to launch businesses. We knew enough to really take technology and build the platforms that ran multi-billion-dollar companies. We had software packages that we were putting in that ran the entire transportation sections of businesses, ran, full data warehouse, systems for some of the largest companies that are in the state of Georgia. We started doing a lot in the behavioral health space and, kind of focused on case notes and things like that for the state of Georgia. I mean, we're the largest case management solution for behavioral health in the state of Georgia. So, when we build things, we build them to scale, we build them with like a larger picture in mind. And so somebody will bring you an idea and we're immediately thinking about, okay, where do we take this and how do we get it to the nth degree? And, great set of partners that, from the very beginning, that was kind of our vision. We're going to take and bring technology to any company that wants it, any small business that needs it, that maybe couldn't get it before, any startup idea. And we've had a lot of success with that. So, just great clients, great, exciting ventures, lots of fun. I don't know. It's been very cool.
I think the model is really fun. I love it. It's kind of like Idea Lab, right?
Yeah.
You get to go after all these different businesses and really get into the business and try and understand how technology and innovation practices can actually, radically impact that business. So it's got to be fun every day.
Yeah.
I'm really curious, like if you could talk about how you met your partners and then how you divided the responsibilities. Because I know so many people have a really hard time finding co-founders, finding that partner that's going to be a really good fit and be in it for the long haul. I mean, I always tell people, I think it's probably harder to find your co-founder than it is to find your spouse.
And I'm probably the world's worst at answering that question because, I was blessed of the four of us that are partners in the company. I probably moved around the most in my career. I jumped. I'm very, I wouldn't say ADHD, but I'm very, focused on continually growing. And if I ever cease growing in one area, I'm immediately looking, okay, I need to find something that keeps me growing. I've never been happier in this job. So this has been, amazing because every new idea is something new to learn. My three partners, being honest, so I lived in Northwest Georgia, like 5 minutes from the Alabama state line, hour drive over to Dalton, about an hour north to Chattanooga, about an hour and 20 minutes southwest to Birmingham. So kind of in that range. I was going to commute no matter where I went or I was going to work remote. And so Dalton was a natural place for us. And that's where my wife grew up, that area. And so when I landed there, honestly, I lucked up. I met Jeremy, who's one of my best friends in the world. I met him. We were probably 24, 25, working at a carpet mill, doing some of their IT stuff. And he and I have been really good friends ever since. I moved around jobs for a couple years and met, again, I was in Shaw Industries. I've worked for Dover Corporation. I've worked in the insurance business. I've worked in the tax business. So I've moved around quite a bit. And oftentimes, I don't know if it's if I grade myself on what other people do, but I certainly I'm very competitive, right? And so as I go through these companies, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be the best at this thing. And when I met Jeremy was as good as I was, right? And I respect that a lot. And so he and I were together and friends outside of work. Moved around a couple companies, and I met Lee and Brent at one of the other companies we'd worked with. When I was at Shaw Industries, they were at another place. But I had met those guys and, worked with them for about a year before we started this. And, I just gravitated to them. They're some of the best I had ever worked with. And so when we had the opportunity to get together, I'm much more of the driver in a lot of the conversations. Brent and I are probably the executives of the group. We do, and make things happen and all that. And not that we're not technical, but we're certainly more of the business people, I guess, than the technical guys. And Jeremy and Lee are much more of our super engineers, right? And I had never been more impressed by those guys' technologies, what they could do when we were writing software together, how good they were at it. And so I just naturally fell into a group that were really good friends. I mean, we golf together, we, drink together, eat lunch together. We're together more than we're with our wives. And, over the years, as we were kind of discussing that, they had the same mindset where we wanted to start a business. We wanted to be involved in kind of the high tech. I think we all naturally paid attention to things like TechCrunch and, Y Combinator and all the startup world that was going on. And we didn't have it where we were, but we wanted it. And I think that kind of tied us together as people that were just, well, these guys are no better than the people in Georgia. These guys are no better than what we've got in Dalton, Georgia. And so maybe a little bit of that competitive drive, but, when we started, that was my founders, best friends. Not that we don't argue, not that we don't struggle, but we're there for each other. And, there's a really good balance. We yin and yang each other in a 4-person kind of partnership that's been really great. And we've added other partners and other co-founders with some of the other businesses over the years. And, we're very cognizant of not screwing up with our mojo, I guess. You got to be very careful. You don't just invite anybody into being your founder. I mean, we've had a few of those where, we tried something and it just didn't work, and nobody wants to work and live miserably. So you've got to find people that you can relate to. As much as friendship probably isn't the same once you become partners, there's some of it that becomes it's almost, as you grow and get through life a little further, you really start to appreciate what those guys bring to you. And, I think we're very blessed to know each other.
One of the things I used to say to people that people often didn't understand is I said, you have a really good co-founder or co-founding team. You figured out how to fight well together.
Yeah, that's really right.
Right?
It is.
Right? Because you have to be able to fight to the death almost for the idea that you each believe in, and then at the same time find the best solution for the customer.
Yeah.
Right. But wake up the next day and be like, all right, we made the right decision together, and here's the path forward. And that's hard. I mean,
yeah, that's it. Like I said, it's 4 guys. There ain't anything special about us. We're 4, ridiculously goofy guys, but we get into a room together, and we've all got really strong ideas. We're all willing to fight for them, but at the same time, we go home and we know that we're not doing it for no reason. There's not an argument happening because we just want to argue. The argument's happening because there's something to figure out. And a lot of times I'm probably the peacemaker of our group, but we fight just as strong. And I use that brother term because that's what it feels like. As much as I can argue with them, and as much as we can get angry about things or, fight to get to a certain place or whatever, they're also there at 8:00 at night. They're also calling me on the weekends. They're also, I know their families. We go on vacations together. We, have great Christmas parties together, so
Yeah.
it's hard to beat.
So let's change gears a second and talk about Savannah. You opened a branch office. Headquarters is still Dalton, Georgia. You opened a branch office in Savannah 8-ish months ago.
Yep.
About that
sure
process and how's it going?
Well, so we've had a lot of clients in Savannah for again, I went to Georgia Southern.
We see it.
Yeah, my house was pretty decorated with it, but I'm as diehard a Southern person as anybody, and I come back to Statesboro regularly, usually 5 or 6 times a year for football at least, and then of course I sent my heart down to Statesboro last year. So my oldest daughter is a sophomore this year, actually a junior with all of her high school credits, but she's down here. My son's about to graduate. He's planning on enrolling down here. I've got lots of clients down here. Back in 2008 or so, we had started kind of focusing on technology down here, just IT services. And we've got a guy that's been with us for almost as long as the company's been around, Rick Bean, and he's heavy into the Georgia Southern stuff, just like I am. Actually head of the Eagle Club here in the Savannah region. And so Rick and I have known each other for a long time. We hired him pretty quickly after we started the business up. Again, really good friends, felt like there was a good mix there. And we've been promising him for years that, we were going to throw some more resources in Savannah and really try to tackle our technology business, just managed services, fixing computers, running network wiring, security cameras, all of that stuff. And then the Creative Coast had kind of gone up and down over the years. And then you came in, and I think you had actually had a meeting with Dr. Smith, one of our clients at one point. And he was like, Stacey, this may be the time, if you guys want to do something here, there's a good opportunity down here. And I think Savannah is really on the rise. And of course, again, I follow Savannah. I was at Georgia Southern not as long ago as Rick was, but I was there 15,000 students. And, they kept saying, all right, by 2020, we're going to be up to 25,000 students. Well, they beat that by like 4 or 5 years. And so I see kind of the growth that's happening down here. We know there's opportunity down here. We've got a really great base up in Northwest Georgia that's tackling the Chattanooga market and the North Atlanta market. And so, I told my partners that if this is something we want to do, that, we feel like this is probably the right time. So we started looking. I reached out to quite a few different areas just to see what our opportunities were for incentives, things that would help us kind of, find a good community to fall into. Of course, we looked at Jacksonville. We looked at Charleston. We certainly were really close to Chattanooga, so there was some interest in there, but we could also operate from our existing headquarters to kind of get into that Chattanooga market if that's where we were going to go, and probably still are kind of focused on that business. But we dabbled in trying to see what was out there, who had kind of the energies that we were looking for, but also the holes that we would fill. I spent about 9-10 months doing research on our competition in the area, what our impact could be if we did some of the partnerships that we were exploring with universities. What did the startup scene look like? Because that was something we're very involved in Northwest Georgia. And so, we researched and we reached out and we talked. And honestly, there was really no competition. There absolutely was no competition. Savannah, for us, was a perfect fit. How much of that was because I'm just a huge Georgia Southern nerd? Maybe, but there's a lot going on here. Absolutely, you look at where the Creative Coast is. Creative Coast to me was doing things that I wanted to see my communities doing. I didn't have to do. So in Dalton, we started an accelerator because there wasn't something like that for our small businesses, but the community needed it, wanted it. We worked to get it, but that's not my area of expertise. To find somebody that was already here, that had been with ATDC, that had an impact opportunity, as big as that, that was a huge component. I've got a lot of relationships at Georgia Southern. And so we actually have a joint venture that we've started with the university unofficially this semester, should be officially next semester. So kind of quietly announcing that at the moment. But there's a really cool technology incubator apprenticeship program that we're doing with Georgia Southern. We actually start next week. So, there was that aspect of it. We're big into logistics. So we do a lot of trucking. We do a lot with, the logistics world with some of our medical software is very focused on the logistics side of things. And so kind of having been born and raised in the flooring industry where, we're talking about pellets turning into, carpet or trees turning into hardwood or, whatever, the lineage, the logistics, all of that starts to come together, and you're looking at what does the future look like here? Well, everything fit for us. I mean, we already had a client base. So it was really hard for us to just find anything bad about even the opportunity. The biggest challenge I was going to have to deal with is my son has a really good friend in Northwest Georgia. I can't come down here quick enough to manage as fast as I would like. So right now I'm driving back and forth, just trying to help this office get its legs up under it. So
let me ask you a question, because you have these two really diverse businesses. One is the IT, managed services, cloud services, telecom space. The other is software.
Yeah.
Both software development, right? But also then, most of these things you stand up and you run as a SaaS components of your business. So what's the split between the two, like IT versus software?
So you mean as far as why, or
like what percentage? Like, is it 50-50 or is it?
Oh, no. So our technology business, it's kind of interesting. So we started with website development, right? And really we're focused on small businesses. And in fact, one of the big core components that I'd always, and my partners had kind of hammered from our very first website, from our very first trifold that we carried to markets and things like that, bringing enterprise level technology to a small business owner who struggles. Because again, and I'll tell you a story later, but we're very rural, white, redneck. We're Georgia boys. We really are. There's no two ways to say about that. I grew up in Summerville, Georgia. My partner grew up in Stockbridge. Lee grew up in Screven County. Jeremy grew up in Cleveland, Tennessee. We're all from around, the South. And so, and we all went to real blue collar schools. West Georgia, UGA, Auburn, Georgia Southern. Everybody we're around, we're focused on the South, the Southern businesses. We're focused on, a lot of this blue collar stuff. And what we always struggled with was the people we talked with, the people we were dealing with, they weren't the Berkshire Hathaways. They weren't the corporate, Home Depots or, those companies. And a lot of the smaller businesses needed to compete in the marketplace. And to be honest, one of the things that we were struggling with in Northwest Georgia was there was just lots of opportunity to bring business into the area with technology, because they were the suppliers of all the flooring, all of the, all of that stuff. But if they didn't do it, they were losing that business to some of the other companies that could do it. And so, we started off with small websites and IT, trying to help those guys out, and then started getting more into the software development, which was core of what we do. So as far as kind of what our split is, we started kind of in that 50-50 mark. Quickly realized that we couldn't just hire people to do the software development as quickly as we could, the IT guys. There was a whole lot more training for technologists, people that could do the Cisco routers and wire networks and stuff like that. Engineers that had done software development and especially in the areas we were kind of focused on, not only were we trying to get those guys, but to get the best of those guys was, a lot harder. So we started giving up a lot of that business to some of our employees, letting those guys run that. So Rick here in Savannah was a good one. And we've got other guys that were kind of doing that in Northwest Georgia. And so we acquired a company roughly 4 or 5 years ago in Northwest Georgia to kind of grow that business. That's probably about 15 to 20% of our business in Northwest Georgia. Down here, we're probably 50-50, maybe 40-60 on the tech business in this area. All told, it's probably 30% where we're doing tech work, 70% we're doing software development. Of that 70%, probably a third of that or half of that is our own technologies. So companies we've built where we kind of are the hub of all of this stuff. So, we sitting here in the center, we do, somebody else's products. We do IT work for companies, and then we have our own business lines that are, centered around that support. So help desk support, phone calls and all of that.
So Mark had a question I put in the chat that I think this is the perfect time for Mark to ask this question. So Mark, why don't you open up your mic and ask your question?
Yes, Stacey, your business has created a lot of custom software. Have you packaged any of the software products you've created, either on-premise or SaaS, and resold it to other customers? And if so, how have you protected your intellectual property?
Yeah, so we've got a couple of different approaches to that. So first, question, yes. So we've got I've got solutions that we've deployed in the marketplace that are SaaS products. I've got on-premise solutions that are in a variety of places. We've launched our own SaaS products. We've launched SaaS products for other companies. We've partnered with companies to launch SaaS products, and we've launched products 100% that are wholly owned by us. What we typically do with a lot of our IPs, we've got a variety of different ways we handle that. One of which, you kind of start with the software itself. So some of our source code, some of our infrastructure and frameworks, we bundle those and license those. So we'll have license agreements and things that, like, let's say that I'm going to build a software solution for somebody. If I've got 10 years worth of code that saves you 2 years worth of development, we can leverage that asset, license, it's, a royalty-based license or a free-based license. We own the base framework, and then we build on top of that. So there's that angle of things, which has been really powerful for us because, 20 years of software development, we're constantly adding new assets to our package. Like, I don't have to write interfaces to FedEx. I don't have to send lab orders to LabCorp. I don't have to redo that stuff if I'm working on these business lines. We've already solved those problems, and we kind of bundle. So I don't write credit card processing. I don't write database access. So we've got just this layer of stuff that we can kind of pick and build from, which saves some time, but it still never makes it as cheap as you like it. And then on the other side, there's IP agreements that we do. One of the best things from an advice perspective that I ever got from some of our IP attorneys, and we've spent a lot of money on attorneys over the years. One of the ways we structure some of our organizations, even structurally separating the intellectual property into an organization that then licenses it to another operating organization, so that the operating organization never deals with the ownership concerns of the IP. So the operating company gets sued, it gets, has some issues there. There's a strict agreement between who owns the software and who operates the software. So we've taken a couple of different ways to deal with that. And what's kind of neat about what we do is, just like I take assets and software development and kind of bundle those things, every time we launch a new company for one of these technologies, we're using boilerplates of what we've done before, to kind of instances. So, we've used that quite a bit.
Yeah.
So that makes me wonder, So is your Inventure IT kind of truly an umbrella organization where some of these products you launch as literally different companies that are
Oh,
owned
yeah.
by Inventure IT? Is that the
Yeah. We kind of talked about, like, I don't know that we've ever gone with umbrella as the thing. We kind of call it the hub. So, you can imagine, the hub of a wheel or something. So Inventure IT kind of sits in the middle of that. And, all these things we kind of launch off around it. So typically when I bring an employee in first day, that's the thing I draw on the board is, here's this company, here's this company. So, as an example, we've got April of last year, we launched a completely new business called EasyLoader. EasyLoader, TMS.com is a website. It's a transportation management system for 3PL companies, brokers who book loads and, work with other companies to do shipping. We launched that April of last year, wholly owned subsidiary company by, we own a 10% stake in it, but we do all the technology for it. So we stood it up from the ground up. We've scaled it. We've built the solutions behind the scenes. We've got a CTO role in the company and we sit on the board. But that company operates on its own. It's got its own sales force. It's got, somebody else owns 90% of that business. We've got joint ventures and a medical technology software company. You've met Dr. Smith before. We've launched 10 or 12 products underneath that organization. Sometimes we don't. It just depends on the ownership structure and whether we want it to be a separate entity or need to hire our own, CEO, hire our own sales force. Do we need board access? Those kinds of things. Our sales guys tend to be pretty versatile because they just have to be, because you never know what kind of leads coming in. And so, that there's probably smarter business people that would say we should probably roll each one of those out as their own product or their own company. But, we kind of play that by ear.
It's a lot of legal paperwork. Sometimes is unnecessary. So I've always wondered, when is the right time to spin something up? Is it at that stage when you're just at the concept stage, or is it when there's a little bit of traction, you figure out how to structure it the right way? Because if something goes nowhere, what's the point of studying the corporate structure around it?
Yeah.
It's tricky. So tell us a little bit about how many employees you're at in each of your locations. And that's kind of a weird question to ask since everybody's probably remote, but.
Yeah. We actually started back in the office a few weeks ago. Just give everybody a couple of days that they can work from home. Everybody, of course, in our offices in Northwest Georgia, everybody's got their own door. So, they can come in when they need to, shut their door when they need to. We can come to a meeting room and kind of socially distance and all that stuff, but still kind of have some camaraderie around a couple of days a week. So we've cut back quite a bit. When it was really rough, we were completely remote. We really didn't, to be honest, we really didn't get affected significantly on the software development side. We already had contracts and things we were working on, plenty of products to do. The service business has been hit pretty hard. But we're still employing everybody that we had since the day before all this stuff started going on. I think we're close to 30 employees total across the company. I think when we started this initiative here in Savannah, we had 25 or so in Northwest Georgia, and we're planning on opening just the service business down here. And so we started that. I think November we started the hiring process. I think we've hired 2 people. So I have 3 staff members that are here full time, and then of course me back and forth until we get our stuff situated personally. But we're fixing to hire 8 new apprentices in the region. They'll start in Statesboro, but that's going to be kind of a rolling plan to keep a class or 2 of apprentices in this area. And then, of course, what's crazy, which still floors me, we've had more opportunities start showing up since we've been down here in Savannah than we've probably seen in quite a while. Our last partner meeting, we were discussing trying to replicate what we've done in Northwest Georgia down here, because there are some big opportunities for software development in this area. We're having lots of luck with companies that are just looking for things like what we do. Sometimes it's a little consulting, but sometimes it's big development projects. And so I think we're going to end up maybe doubling what we do in Northwest Georgia down here, but it's going to take some energy, and that's what my next few years is going to be focused on.
That certainly wouldn't upset me. Yeah.
I hope so.
So talk a little bit about, I believe I'm right, and you correct me if I'm wrong. You didn't take outside funding, or you have not to date taken any outside funding. Regret thinking about it in the future? What are your thoughts there?
I'm not usually somebody, I'm the wrong partner to ask about regrets, because I shouldn't say this on video, but I told Jeremy, he and I were talking the other day, and I said, we're the best at this. And, I honestly am one of those people that, I make a decision, that's the best decision. We're going to go do that decision. And Jeremy's my partner, who every decision's got to be thought through 100 times over before it's the right decision. So from that angle, we've certainly, it's a lot of work to do it on your own. It is absolutely a lot of work to do it on your own. We've talked about, and we have a variety of different opportunities to where, maybe in venture IT isn't a company that's going to take money, but some of the businesses we're launching certainly could be a place that could take money. And even to that extent, so far, we have not decided that it's been needed. Some of that, I'm not an expert on that area, right? So, we're a bunch of tech guys. To be honest, for the first 4 or 5 years, we apologized to our employees just about every time we had a one-on-one meeting with them, saying, sorry that you have to work for people that don't understand how to be bosses, because, we know how to write programs, but, we had to learn how to be executives. We had to learn how to do sales. We had to learn accounting and, all the things that come with it. Certainly we had some experience with that, but I had not done as much of that. The fundraising side, I've always followed it. 20 years I've been following, some of the stuff that's been going on. Me personally, I've started to see, at least in my mind, when people want to invest, at least when they come seeking you, they want you to have taken all the risk already. So there's, once I've taken all the risk, the next step is money. What do I need money to get there for, right? So venture capital, at least from my perspective, what I've seen is the money that's hanging out there seems like it's much more to help scale than it used to be to help launch. It's kind of moved to this, well, you're already making money, let's help you make more of it. And that's the fun part to me, right? Like I almost would rather do that kind of on my own if I can make that happen. We've already done all the hard work. That's the icing on the cake. That's not the hard part. And so we've always kind of shied away from venture capital. Now, angel investments, partnerships, strategic partnerships and ventures, I'm all over those. So, we've partnered with, some large medical facilities. We've partnered with large logistics companies, partnered with some large manufacturers. To me, that's been our best opportunities, right? So if I could encourage anything, finding somebody that's willing to take a little bit of a leap of faith with you and then solve their problems. And now you've got some way to launch a business because you've solved, and you already have your first client, and you already have some relationship that gets you into a certain place. So we're very focused on things like strategic partnerships. We've probably done twice as many strategic partnerships as businesses we've launched. And so 50%, success rate, that has been very, very helpful for us because not only does it give you, a reason to solve the problem, but you also have users, you're vetting your use case. You've got a built-in customer base so that you can talk and say like, yeah, this was our first customer. Here's what we're doing at this place. So to me, that's become more valuable in this world than, venture capital to me.
I love that. We used to call it client-funded or customer-funded development, right? Go
Right.
find the customer, solve their problem, try and maintain licensing of at least the core code, give them what they need, but keep you owning most of the code so you can spin it out and use it slightly differently for other people.
Right. Yeah. We've done some really great things. Like, so there's some really good partnerships we've had in Northwest Georgia, helped launch our eCase business. So that started out, we had a company that was doing DFAX work for the state of Georgia, and they were spending, I bet they had spreadsheets that they were working on for like 20 days in a month to bill for the month. And I think the first time we saw their spreadsheet, it was like 50 meg spreadsheet with, 100,000 rows in it. And like, it would take, 40 minutes for it to just come up on the screen before they do what they needed to do. And this was the state of Georgia requiring this document, so that partnership, like I said, we kind of worked with them and said, look, we'll build something for you, but we're going to build it and then we're going to go sell it. You got to help us understand the model. And we launched eCase Notes. It's been 6 or 7 years ago. Right? Like I said, right now that product's #1 in the state. There is no other product in the state that does DFAX work to the scale that we do for invoicing the state of Georgia. And that's one of the 10 or so examples. I mean,
yeah, very cool, very cool. I love strategic relationships. We are getting a little long on time here, so I'm going to jump ahead to tell us about what your biggest challenge has been as a company.
I think for us, probably the hardest thing has been growing beyond just the 4 of us. Like, that was the thing that it took some work. We hired some people very early on. Started with the 4 of us and then added 1 or 2, and we stayed at 1 or 2 for quite a while before we had really figured out how could we even build this to grow any bigger. We were very content just to make enough money to keep ourselves happy and whatnot. And that worked out, for a number of years. But I think the scaling part was probably the hardest thing to learn because that's, at least from my perspective, it's so unnatural. Management is not my thing. And my employees would probably tell you that's true as well. And so trying to figure out the process by, let's get the right space. Let's build out something that's actually a cool place to be. Let's build our culture building, company building. That was the hard part. Certainly. I'd say lately the hardest thing is finding work-life balance. When you go into business, I saw a post on Facebook or something the other day, and it had, if you do what you love was written at the top, you'll never work a day in your life was written at the bottom. Somebody had scratched it out and said, or you'll work every day of your life because you don't care or something like that. It's a little true. If I had a professor that said that something along those lines, and I was like, I've been saying that for a long time. I don't feel like I go to work anytime. I love what I do. I enjoy, I'm a problem solver. That's what service and all of this, software development is to me. It's solving different problems for different reasons. But at the same time, as much as I don't ever work a day in my life, I never stop working a day in my life either. You're always on. That's the hard part of this job.
Especially with these.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now we're always on. We got a computer in our pocket.
Yeah.
So talk to me about what success looks like. What's your end game?
Well, to be honest, for us as a company, I think we were successful, 5 or 6 years ago. The 4 of us being able to do this as a living, we were very content from that perspective. But there's, for me personally, I think what I've seen, like as we've grown, the impact we can have is certainly, it's powerful. Maybe I might even call it a drug for me. There's a side of me that sees what we can do to bring prosperity to our communities. So Northwest Georgia, great example. We built the Dalton Innovation Accelerator, startup, incubator, accelerator business, downtown Dalton, partnered with the Chamber of Commerce, Dalton State College, really focused on a startup competition, and that was kind of our thing. And first competition, we have a kid, Lee Phillips, and his son, Trip. In third grade, he made an invention. I think it was sixth grade at the time when he came into the competition or whatever. We got him prepped. He got his pitch on stage, did a little 3-5 minute pitch, whatever it was. Kid killed it. Goes on Shark Tank, gets an investment from Mr. Wonderful, and so when that happened, our community was, Dalton's a great community. So, there's some really cool stuff going on up there, but they really embrace entrepreneurs in that area, especially the manufacturing area. And we get that vibe down here. And so, when we see kind of that impact happening there, well, so one of the big initiatives that we talked about when we first launched, I had my 8-minute spiel in front of CETA, and I was rushing through it, but, Inventure IT was launching down here, but we were also launching that SALT initiative. And SALT is kind of, it's a tangent to what we had done in Northwest Georgia, which was this very focused, let's help build technology in this region, right? Let's try to drive the technology, and let's do it not only in our jobs, but let's do it in our community. And so the SALT initiative is probably the thing that I see as kind of where's our success going to go. We can be as happy as we want to be doing the technology and doing all the development. Certainly we love doing that. But success to me is probably seeing that initiative where we build this pipeline of apprentices coming out of college and high schools, bring them into our company, show them what a career looks like, grow them and groom them to be great software developers, great leaders in the technology space in this area. And then hopefully our kids are involved in that process. To me, that legacy of SALT is probably where I see the most change in kind of what we see as a picture of success. Like I said, it probably started as just making money and doing a good job on the tech side, but as we grow I'm in my mid 40s at this point, so looking at what the next 20 years of my life looks like, that's giving back to our community. I want to leave a legacy here that Savannah, Georgia Southern, the state of Georgia, we become kind of the technology hub for the South. I think it's certainly something we can do. And,
I agree. In fact, I need to send you that link. The Lieutenant Governor's Innovation Task Force wrapped up its first session, and the Lieutenant Governor is going to present on Monday at lunchtime what he's decided to do with the findings of that task force. I need to send you the link for the video. I think you'd be interested in that. It's really part of that.
Yeah, I like to dive into stuff like that. Like I said, I joined into that the logistics technology group that we've got down here, and to me, it's one of the things that government, where you see where there's opportunities for government and private industry, and like Georgia Southern in this partnership we're doing, it's private public kind of this line here. We started doing that in the Northwest Georgia area, doing that with our chamber and doing that with some of the public industry or public areas up there. It's very powerful because what I've learned is if you do it alone, whether it's the chamber doing something alone or economic development groups doing it alone, if you don't have good strategic partners, those things die 3 years after it's over, right? Like somebody loses energy and it's not going to live. And so one of the things that I think, I've always taken from that is you've got to have the right people, but you got to build it to last. And that's something that's hard for people to understand when they dive into these things.
I agree 100%. One of those things used to happen to me a lot when I was at ATDC is a company would achieve a certain milestone and we'd be celebrating it. And somebody would say, well, I thought the chamber was responsible for that. I'm like, no, it takes a village, it takes a city. Every single person around the table did something, made an introduction, did something to help that company. This is a win for all of us.
Yeah.
They always want to give responsibility or blame to one person. It's like, no, we either all fail or we all succeed together. So that's kind of how I think about community building. All right, last question, and then I'll probably open it up for another question or two. And the last one is just, what tips do you have for the entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs that are listening to us this evening?
I don't know. I'm horrible at advice. If I had somebody giving me advice early on, I think that the thing I needed to hear most when I started was it's not all for naught. Definitely if you can, and it's something we talk about even when we're looking to hire employees. There's certain things that you can be taught, right? But a couple of things you can't. Some of those are work ethic and just drive. And the 4 partners I've got in my business and most of my employees as well, we've been very blessed. I love my employees. We've got probably the greatest group of people I've ever worked with. One of the things that all of them have, and that's the cool part about it, is that drive. They're going to come to work, come to do things. And for me, entrepreneurship has always been, I've got to work. I got to, you're going to have to do things that maybe you're not comfortable with. You're going to have to keep doing those things. And if somebody had told me early on, hey, it's going to eventually pay off, I think I'd have probably felt a whole lot better because I know I certainly we all worked our tails off and sometimes wondered, is it worth it? And I'm very content at this moment. So I would definitely say that it was worth it.
Excellent. Thank you. Do I have any questions from the audience? You can either put it in the chat, raise your hand, or unmute yourself. There's Mark. Hi, Mark.
I have a quick question. Stacey, what percentage of your code is open source? Is it all open source?
So I come from the Microsoft world. So I've never been much of, I say I come from the Microsoft world. I've done a lot of Java development, a lot of open source stuff, certainly understand and see a big opportunity for those things. And in fact, everybody's embracing that from that perspective. But, everything we develop is custom written in-house, and we keep it all completely private, 100%.
What is your content? What's your repository for your software?
So most of what we do, we build Microsoft Stack. So we're working in what they call now Azure DevOps, which is their variation of and all the other stuff.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Williams. It's good to see you. If there's no other questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap. Stacey, thanks for joining me.
Jim.
Audience, thanks for joining me. Oh, Mr. Williams.
No, not Mr. Williams, just
Jim.
I tuned in a little bit late. Stacey, did you make any reference to salt, or is that for another day topic?
Yeah, we talked about it for a little bit. Yeah, we definitely did. So Jim actually sits on the board of, So anyway, Jim sits on a couple of boards, and SALT is one of the initiatives that we've been diving into recently. I was just telling them that we launched that next week with Georgia Southern. So we do our interviews starting Monday.
Right.
I have Dr. Morrow a couple of days ago, and he alluded to it. So they're very excited to get going on it as well.
Yeah.
Have any of the Parker College of Business students, did they pitch for interview after that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So we got a few from the business college, MIS program, and some of those areas. Yep.
All right. I gave them 5 categories specifically. I wanted to make sure we hadn't talked about that. Sorry, we're talking about other things, but it's about what you're doing, though. Jen, you're doing a good job.
Thank you. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're right on I told somebody the other day, I feel like we've been pushing a boulder up the hill for a while, and we're almost like 100 yards from the top of the hill, and it's about to just roll down the hill and pick up speed. So we're there. I think we're almost there. Very excited about where we're at right now. But if there's no other questions for Stacey, it is coming up on 7 o'clock, so we try and keep this to an hour sharp. And so thank you, Stacey. Thank you, Jim, for joining us. Thank you, Mark and Emily and Kevin for joining us. Have a great evening, and we'll catch you next month for Entrepreneurs Night, the second Thursday of the month.